Hey everyone, welcome to Our Small Footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a family of 8 who live off-grid in Australia. Now, I say that on like rote now, but I probably don't need to say it on every video, especially not these ones. But it has just become habit, so we will see. I'm sure there's some that I don't say it, mind you, because I'm just not real sure where videos are starting and ending and things like that. But I'm just not sure. It is Sunday afternoon, so this was my, chat video. It is late on Sunday afternoon. It is 3:15. I just did not get moving, so I put a video out this morning anyway. Normally I do this first thing in the morning and getting it out at lunchtime, but I actually put a video out today that I was supposed to edit last night, and I ended up crashing early because I couldn't stay awake long enough to edit it. So I edited it this morning and got it uploaded, but it always, normally when I edit it for night time, I set it to upload and then I go to bed. I leave my laptop on and I go to bed and it just uploads overnight. But when they upload on the same day, they seem to take 3 times as long. Daytime uploading seems to take that long. I don't know whether that's true or if it just feels like that because I'm waiting for it rather than just going to bed, but that's how it feels anyway. So I got that uploaded and out only like 2 hours ago, and now I'm out in the kitchen. I had plans for stuff to do while I was chatting to you today, and then I came out and all my Thermomixes were dirty. Now I don't know why because I haven't cooked anything yet today other than leftovers for lunch. But the kids have this tendency, I'm sure all children do it, they have to do the dishes after dinner, and they rotate it in turns as part of their chores. And sometimes pots or Thermomix bowls or things like that are just a little bit tricky to wash, they just put water in it and put it aside, and then it doesn't get washed. So I had to clean one. So the intent had been to make some pasta for the kids because the lasagna soup was requested for dinner tonight, but it's now 3:15 and I just don't know if I could be bothered. So they may just end up having a packet of dried pasta like penne or spirals or something in the soup, and they'll deal with that. It is always nicer with fresh made pasta and cut into chunks and put in the lasagna soup, but I just don't think I'm up for it today. So if they want bolognese, they can either have it as soup with the dried pasta or they can just have bolognese on its own, and then I'll have to bag the rest of it up to go in the freezer for meals for later on in the month. Normally we get sort of 10 maybe meals out of the big batch of bolognese, so it normally lasts for a whole shopping period. I don't know if I'll need mince this grocery haul actually, because I've got a few kilos frozen that I minced in the first half of the month that's frozen in the freezer, and then I just made that bolognese. So I don't know if I'll buy beef trim this month actually. I might not. I'll see how I go. I'll have a look at what other beef I'm and whether I decide that I want to do a bulk meat order. See, I can always do a bulk meat order. So I don't know. Anyway, that's part of the planning, inventorying and stuff, which I will do tomorrow. But for now, I just don't think I could be bothered making pasta. But the other thought was to make one of my flourless almond whole orange cakes, chocolate orange cakes for dessert as like Easter dessert. Maybe even a custard to go with it. That was the idea. So I might do that since I've got my oranges in a jar already, because I can them and I puree them and can them so that I can use them to make these chocolate orange cakes nice and quick. So we might do that while we're chatting today. I do need to remember to say that over the last week or so I've had 6-8 people make comment that all of a sudden they're unsubscribed from the channel. I don't know why that happens, but there's been a whole bunch of them over the last week. So if you aren't subscribed, please feel free to subscribe. It helps the channel. It helps YouTube to see that people want to keep watching. So thumbs up and subscribe. I never remember to say that. People always tell me that I should say it. Thumbs up, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. Marketing is totally not my forte. But do double check if you are normally subscribed that you still are, because apparently a bunch of people have been knocked off the subscriptions and I'm not real sure why that happens or how it works, but that's the way it is. YouTube is a fickle beast. It is really hard to figure out, and honestly I try really hard not to overanalyze it because I think I would send myself batty, trying to figure out what I do and need to do and what I don't need to do, and why some people have like 50,000 subscribers and have only been around for 12 months, and then, you know, why some videos go viral and yet I did something on that video, like the same subject matter 12 months ago, and it barely got looked at, you know, all that sort of thing. So I try very hard not to look at that too much. So that I needed to cover that. What else did I need to cover in today's chat video? I really need to get better at writing a list about the things that get asked throughout the week that I'm supposed to cover and I forget. I did get asked about my Patreon the other day. So I have a Patreon. I signed up because I got requested to a lot. But at the time I sat there and went, I really don't know what I'm going to be giving people that's extra to be members on Patreon, because I barely manage to do what I do. Time-wise, I'm a little tight on time. So when I did it, I made sure that everyone knew that not necessarily going to be anything new to be a member, but if you wish to support me in a different way, then do that. Patreon's one of those things where you can just draw the money out when you want to, so I actually just leave it. I just let it sit. I try and remember to post, and I try and remember to do exclusive content, but I'm really, really bad at it. There is very minimal on there. But what I do is I tend to pull that money out the week I do groceries. So whatever's in there, I just pull it out and add it to the grocery budget for that particular time, or to what I buy for the kids. Like maybe that ends up being the Kmart budget or whatever. But that money, I just pull it out when I do the groceries and it goes towards that. But I did get asked the other day by someone if I had any plans on what I was going to do with it. They were just trying to decide where to keep their subscription money and things like that. And I really just don't know. I had thought about doing some lives over there. I don't know how it works. I'd have to look into it, but I had thought about doing that. But timing wise becomes an issue because a lot of my viewers aren't in Australia. So trying to work out timing schedules to make sure that the Patreons are at the relevant time zones to access the lives, becomes an issue. Maybe I just need to ask all the questions. Like you need to give maybe a monthly thread where everyone asks questions on the Patreon that they want me to cover in the live. But I don't get a lot of throughput on posts that I put in there either. Like I don't get a lot of comments back on them either. So I'm really not sure. But anyone who's a Patreon, please, if you got feedback on that, anyone who's a patron on Patreon, if you got feedback on that, that would be great. The idea was to do some custom product and things like that only the patrons had access to or got to pre-order from and things like that. But again, I'm stretched a little thin at the moment and I just can't seem to do that. I did get suggested to do a membership on YouTube, and again the same thing. When you do a membership, you're supposed to provide extras for the membership, whether their videos come out a day early or whether, and I am barely scheduling videos as it is, let alone getting them ready to go out early. So I don't know. Feedback would be great on that one. I also have noticed in my last lot of editing, I've had a bunch of people, I've had this two extremes of people in the comments lately saying how good I look, weight loss or whatever else, which is fine. Thank you. I don't believe it. I've lost anything or anything else, but obviously it looks good on camera. But I've also had a whole bunch telling me that I don't look real great or I don't sound real great. And I have noticed when I've been editing that there's a lot of breathing sounds on my videos at the moment. And I'm wondering if that's part of it. When I'm editing, I even feel like it makes me sound like I'm out of breath. Now, I'm not. And my health is mediocre, the same as it always is. It's not great. It's not any worse than normal. But I'm going to try filming this one. If you see, I've got so I wear a lav mic because I find that is the best way to pick up voice without picking up too much of the ambient sounds, the dogs, the kids, and all the rest of it. You get a bit of it in there, but it's not as forward. Whereas if you're using the mic that's in the camera, sometimes that's a lot closer to like the stovetop, and I walk away, and so you wouldn't get my voice in there and stuff. So the lav mic works really well. It means I can have it clipped on. It's in my pocket. I turn it on and off throughout the day. I've pointed it downwards for this video. We'll see if that makes a difference, if it doesn't pick up my breath sounds. But I think a lot of the problem is that a lot of the time I'm leaning down like this while I'm talking because I'm cutting things on a board and stuff like that. So I'm breathing straight into the mic. So I'm thinking that there might be some sort of a 3D print or something that I can do that can allow me to move the mic somewhere else on me that still picks up the sound. Maybe even clipping it on my shoulder would work or something. I don't know. I'm going to test it out, but I'm going to see if this makes any difference. You can let me know. I have noticed though that my breathing sounds have been quite distinct on the last couple of videos. There is a weather change factor. I'm a little congested with the weather change because we're getting down to like 4 or 5 degrees at night, but it's still 30 degrees during the day. Makes it really difficult to regulate with that. So you end up waking up a little bit snotty because it's cold air, but then it gets really hot. Like I'm sweating at the moment. It's warm. It's overcast and warm. So anyway, what else? I don't know. And I was talking about doing this cake, wasn't I? So I have my pureed boiled oranges here that I use for this cake. I have just heard that secondary solar is beeping because the kids are on computers and my Thermomix is on that same solar system, which is going to be a bit of an issue. So we have 2 solar arrays. We have the main one that's on the roof of the house, and that runs all our fridges and freezers, all our lighting, all our the 3D printer is on that one because it doesn't draw much power. The water pump for the transferring of water into the tanks, the water pump for our standard water, so like when we shower or use the taps or anything like that, that pump is on that as well. And then we have a secondary array which is over in the garden. I'll try and remember to put a photo up here of it, and it's got its own battery bank and everything over in the garden and spot that gets good sunlight. That is hooked up to my kitchen, but it's also hooked up to the stuff in the kids' computers and stuff because they're not allowed to use computers during the day unless it's school related on a weekday, but on weekends sometimes they get more use. But we have the Jackery. I don't know, people who've been around, we got sponsored by Jackery ages ago and we got a Jackery unit and we actually charge that on the secondary solar, and that's what the kids use at night time. So they're allowed on computers from 7 o'clock at night after dinner, bath, dishes and everything else. They can go on from 7 until their various bedtimes. And they plug all their stuff into the Jackery for that few hours. So we charge the Jackery during full sunlight hours, and then we use that Jackery of a nighttime when we don't have sun on the solar. But the problem is that they charge the Jackery in the morning, and then if they're on computers in the afternoon, they're also using that same power system, and it's overcast today, and it just does not tolerate all that usage. It's too small a battery bank, too small an array. Now, I've mentioned before that we are going to install a lithium bank. We needed some more rails for the roof. I don't know if I mentioned actually, because I think we only got them this week, but I found a lady locally selling some panels and rails. She had 20 panels and the rails that were suitable for all the panels. Now, we don't really need any more panels, but can't hurt to have more solar panels. But we did need the rails, so that was really lucky. I caught that online, I think it was last Sunday. Happened to see the sale post and say we can come and get it today. So Darryl picked up all the rails and the panels from her last week, so now he just has to rearrange the roof a little bit to be able to fit more rails and more panels on, and then we can get this new lithium bank set up. When we have that lithium bank set up, that one we can take some of the load off the main system, but also some of the load off that secondary system as well, so that secondary system can be more for my kitchen again. So like at the moment I'd like to make this cake. I probably can still get away with it because I'm not cooking it. I'm only blending it. And the power usage on the Thermomix when you're blending is only sort of 300 to 600 to 800 watts. It's not too bad. It's when you're cooking that becomes the issues. Then you're looking at from 500 to 1800 watts for constant cooking, which is why I don't use it to cook very often. But I was going to make custard. I can't make custard if we don't have the power because that's an 8-minute cook time. I could hook it to the main system if the main system's doing all right, which I think it was on 99% last I checked. And we can always top up the main system with the generator if need be too. So if we run the main system down a little low, the sun sets, we can put the generator on, which will pump in up to 1,000 watts. Constant 1,000 watts into the main system to bump it up to make sure it lasts all night. So because the battery bank on the house is a lead acid bank, you can only use 30% of the total battery bank. That is to support the batteries, to stop them from getting damaged and things like that. So the battery bank that we have out there, it's a 24 volt battery bank. It is 2 volt batteries, and they are 1080 amp hours each. It ends up being a 14 kilowatt hour bank. I'd have to do the maths. But that means that we can only use 30% of that overnight to keep the batteries healthy and give them their lifetime. Like, you want them to last 10-15 years. To be able to do that, you need to baby them a little bit. The reason we're looking at lithium for the other bank is because you can use lithium to 80% of its capacity. So if it was the same size bank, you're getting a whole lot more power that is usable from it because of the way it works, just because of the makeup of it, the chemicals of it, and all the rest of it. You can discharge a lithium bank to 80%, whereas you can only discharge a lead acid bank for 30%. If you want to look after it, you can take it further. Like, it's not going to stop you. You can set your system to allow you to use more. But if you want your batteries to last the length of time that's worth it, then you can only discharge them to about 30%. So I've just shut my Thermomix down because that inverter over there is still beeping. I'm going to go and get the kids to turn their computers off. Now, I might be able to make that cake anyway, because I normally make it in the Thermomix, but I normally grind my nuts, I normally grind my sugar, all that sort of thing. And because my orange is already pureed, I've got almond flour, and I've got enough that I can use it because we're going shopping next week anyway. I've got some powdered sweetener. It's not probably not quite enough, but I do have powdered sugar as well, so I might just do a bit of both, and then that way I feel less guilty about eating it. And I've got the cocoa and stuff. So everything should be powdered enough or fine enough that I should be able to just blend it all together and be done with it, and still cook it up fine. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I don't know why the dogs are going off all of a sudden, but they are. And that's just... Anyway, I'm going to find a bowl and hopefully they'll shut up by the time I come back. Now, I'm sure I've made this before, but I always like to bake something on these Sunday chats. So this is what I'm going to do. So I reckon I can get away with this. So we want about 375 grams of boiled pureed oranges. This is whole oranges that were boiled, and then once they were cool enough to handle, were softened. Were cut up and pureed. That's ended up about 400, which is fine. It actually ends up a little bit drier because of the way that we've done this, so that seems to work okay. We're going to do 50 grams of cocoa. Very pretty. Can you do 6 eggs for me, please? Yep. Sonnet came out at the optimal time. She's going to do eggs for me. So we're going to do 50 grams of cocoa. Or a little more because I'm being a little heavy-handed, but that's fine. We're going to do 200 grams of sugar. Now, as I said, I've got some powdered erythritol here, but not a whole lot. That's only 110 grams. And otherwise, I've got some icing sugar here, and I'm just going to bump it up with that and let Darryl know that if he wants to have it, it's really probably not ideal, but I'll happily have some anyway. So, yeah, sweetener, and then we want 200 grams of almonds. Yep. Now, normally I would grind up almonds with the sugar and stuff, but as I said, Thermomix, no power, so we're just going... Is this the right? I don't think that's the almond meal. That's the wrong one. That one is Victoria's keto flour. This is almond meal, so we're just going to do 200 grams of the almond meal. So it ends up slightly lighter too. Actually, with this, it's actually a nicer texture. But normally I would grind up just a sec. So I've got the weight. Would grind up whole almonds, but with no Thermomix. So 200 grams almond flour. And then the 6 eggs, yep. As usual, we're cracking them one by one because they're eggs from our chicken pens. So we got 6 eggs in there. Now we're going to add some baking powder and some bicarb.
It came with some letters, the bead thing.
Mm-hmm.
It spells out Easter.
Oh, does it?
So you can make a bracelet that says Easter.
Do about a teaspoon of baking powder and about half a teaspoon of bicarb. And then we're just going to mix it together. Now, normally I would do this in the Thermomix. It would be about 30 seconds on speed 5, and it would definitely be easier than doing it by hand. But we do what we need to do when power's low. And Sonnet will get me a baking tin, and that just one, and that should be fine to do. So going to line the bottom of the baking tin, because this is just it's a aluminium cake tin. It doesn't have a loose bottom. So what I do is I fold my baking paper into triangles, and then I preferably get a pair of scissors. My tea towel, Dad had it on the other side of the, it's over there, just on the other side. So I fold it into the triangles, and then can you grab me a pair of scissors, please?
There should be a pair on my desk.
So then what I do is from the middle of the pan, I take the piece of paper and I use my hands to see the edge of it. And then if you cut it off in a slight semicircle, open it up, and you've got the size of the base of the tin. So I just do that, and then pour this batter in. Now this is a fairly lengthy cook cake, 45 to 50 minutes. High egg flourless cakes, they tend to be. And so we're just going to pour this all in. And then get that in the oven, and that will be dessert for tonight. And I'm sure it'll be fine. The texture might not be perfect without the blending, but it'll be fine. So I'm going to get that in the oven. All right, at Sonnet's behest, we're going to give the custard a go. We're going to see if we can get enough power. The kids have turned all the computers off now, so we'll see how we go. Now, I also don't have any corn flour. I've run out, need to buy it this shopping trip, so I'm just going to go heavier on the egg yolks. We're going to put it in the fridge and serve it cool over the warm cake anyway, so it should be fine. Again, we're doing it for the kids, so coconut cream, so it's not going to be particularly low carb either, but that is fine. It's Easter. So I've got the half tin from the coconut cream that I had from yesterday, as well as a full one.
The yogurt or what?
I just want the yolks. So you need to use your other hand because that hand's got a bandage on it, yeah. All right, so we've got I've got about 500 grams of the coconut cream in there. Sonnet's putting a little bit of white's not going to hurt. 4 egg yolks in there for me. Duck eggs would have worked well for custard too. We don't get many duck eggs at the moment, do we?
We have plenty in the fridge right now, but I didn't know if you wanted duck eggs.
Duck eggs work. 4, well, you could put one more in there since that was a little Keat egg, so you want to grab a duck egg as the extra one. Yeah. The duck eggs make it really nice and rich, but also they're a really big yolk. So, and then I'm going to put a little bit of sugar in. Again, I've run out of sweetener. I have a bag of allulose. It was the lady who bought me the ghee, I think, bought me the allulose, and I'm thinking her name was Tracy. So if she's watching now, apologies for yesterday. I think it was Tracy. I have another whole bag of allulose somewhere, but I don't think it came out to the kitchen. I think it stayed inside, and it hasn't managed to come to the kitchen. But anyway, I'm going to use some icing sugar, and I'm just going to do like 40 or 50 grams, nothing huge. I need a spoon.
Boy egg.
We had a duck egg, yeah.
Big boy. Look at him. So fat.
Big yolk. And so yeah, I'm just going to do like 50. All right, so we got 50 grams of the icing sugar in there, and then we're just going to get some vanilla, and then we're going to cook it. So Sonnet's just grabbed me a spoon for the vanilla, and then done. And we'll cook it, and we'll see how we go. So a good tablespoon of vanilla bean paste there, and then we will just see how it goes, and then I'll stick it in the fridge. So yeah, we're gonna put it on for say 6. We'll start at 6. We'll do 90 degrees on speed 3. All right, it's been going for 5 minutes. It's hit the 90 degrees, which will be fine. So it means that everything's cooked through. It may not necessarily be as thick as it could be because it should cook longer, but it's going to be a pouring custard, and it will thicken up a lot more than this once it's refrigerated, and it will be tasty regardless. So there we go. So now I'm going to put a piece of cling wrap on the surface of it so it doesn't form a skin. Some people like the skin. I'm not a fan of the skin. So I will do this and have it just resting on the surface like that, and then it will go in the fridge to chill and set for having with the cake tonight. Alrighty, so I think I've covered everything that needed to be covered today, and we've done our baking. So now I am going to sit down for half an hour before I get started on dinner, and I will take some footage of the cake and the custard and stuff when we do it and put it on the end of this video. So anything else you need to know, put in the comments for me, and I will see you guys on the next one.